Welcome everybody to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast, where you all know every founder story is a journey worth exploring. Today, we have a very special guest for you all, a chief strategist, somebody who is focusing on culture. That is a heavy word in today's time. They are Khalil El Amin, who is the co-founder of Nichefire. For those of you who are not familiar with the Nichefire tool, it's a tool that focuses on understanding cultural trends at any moment across a whole host of platforms that we all know and use, and it just removes that heavy lifting for users. So without further ado, let's bring Khalil to the stage so we can get this conversation going. How's it going, Khalil?
It's going well, man. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, for sure. I had the luxury of connecting with you in the amazing city of Cincinnati. You showed me a good time. You let me know like what the tech scene is looking like in that beautiful city. So I appreciate you for taking me in with the brotherly love for sure when I was on that visit. And we've been connecting ever since. And I just had to have you on the platform for the amazing work that you're doing. So I just wanted to say appreciate you for coming on the platform. Let's start out first question though. Before you were working on Nichefire, tell us a little bit about your story. You know what you were doing with your life. What was your life focus before taking that gamble on yourself and being a founder?
Oh God, that's actually an excellent question, and it always comes up for me because I was an athlete. So for most of my life, working towards becoming a professional athlete was my main goal. So after high school, I received a full athletic scholarship. I had a lot of choices, but I chose to stay in Cincinnati, and I played for the University of Cincinnati, where was able to eventually win a couple championships and do a whole lot. So really, before all of the tech entrepreneur, uh, stuff that I started to pick up on, it was all about football, man. So waking up early, working out, protein shakes, you know what I mean? The normal athletic routines and lifestyles what I was living into. And made it well, I got picked up as a free agent after college with the Arizona Cardinals, but I got cut. I got cut in mini camp. So I never really even got a chance to get my professional career going. Now I did play some arena football a couple years after that to kind of get football out of my system, but that's kind of where it started with for me is just kind of figuring out how to reinvent myself. Um,
Mm,
and then naturally, my father is an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur, successful entrepreneur here in the city. So I went and started working with the family business, but quickly found that I didn't like that too much. Um, I jumped into where was that enterprise rental car. So I did the whole, they hire athletes, they love athletes there. So I did enterprise for a little bit. And then I moved to B2B sales at Xerox. So for a Xerox company, got a chance to get that good sales training and learn how to go door to door selling copiers. Uh,
hmm
that was kind of my start of like the corporate side, and at that same time, learning, uh, you know, how to become the entrepreneur that I am today was all
hmm
that I was working on as well.
I appreciate that background. You closing us out with selling door to door. That that is a that is a path to learning how to do sales. That's not a great experience for most people that I've talked to who go down the path of door to door sales. But you definitely everybody I talk to, they know they have some takeaways from that experience that they leverage for their whole career. So I will say that much about the door to door sales
Just,
path.
just literally think about like knocking on residential homes door to door, but businesses. So
Yep.
more vicious, more more. You got to be light on your feet, right? You got to be able to kind of talk and deal with people's objections and build up some, pretty tough skin.
Rather quickly. So I think as you gave us that breakdown there, a common theme is like you said, you worked for your family business for a while. Like there's some legacy there. I'm curious, like what were the conversations like? Shout out to Pops. Like what were the conversations like when you had to tell them like, hey, this isn't for me? Because when we think about somebody starting a business and then you hand it over to your kids, there's this romanticizing of that idea, but that is not always the case. So, how did that conversation go for you?
It was really hard. It really changed me and my dad's relationship too. As a little boy, I was like stuck to my dad's hip, right? I did everything he did. I always tried to go to work with him and all those. So naturally, I guess you build up some type of like affinity for that thought, right? That, someone's gonna take over this one day and naturally be my oldest or oldest son or the child that shows the most interest in the business. And that was me. I think the issue was there were a couple different issues, right? Entrepreneurs, and just as much as me, there's ups and downs. All right. My father ran a commercial landscaping business, did really, really well for many, many years. But right around the time where I was coming out of college is where he was having the most issues with this business. So coming back to the business at that time wasn't ideal for a new college grad. And it was 2008. So we're in the middle of a
Oh yeah.
recession. I mean, I don't know how many of my friends end up going to Korea to go teach and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one had a job doing what they graduated from college with. Like, and I'm not going to say no one. Very few people had a job that aligned with their degrees at that time. So for me to jump into entrepreneurship, that was like, I graduated with marketing and entrepreneurship degree. So I got the rough part of entrepreneurship very, very early, right? By kind of seeing how my dad was dealing with that. And because of the stress and the inconsistence of revenue coming in and things like that, it was hard for my dad to really kind of manage or be that same entrepreneur he had always been. I hadn't seen him uh, tread water, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it became uncomfortable for me. And at the time, I had a girlfriend, I had a child on the way. I had to make that decision. And it was real hard talking to my dad about it. But we talked and he didn't like it, but he dealt with it. And it was the best thing for me at that time because what I was able to do was see at scale how surviving businesses run, right?
Mm-hmm.
That training program at Enterprise is world class, right? Like you can talk to anyone in sales and marketing, and leadership, and they'll tell you like some of the programs or things that try to be that companies try to replicate. That's always one of them, and it's because they do a really good job of helping you like break down a business. Um, Down to the spreadsheets. I mean, like everything matters when you're working in that rental business. So uh, I took it as an opportunity, and I hated to break my dad's heart, but I took it as an opportunity to go be better, right? To go learn more, and all those things that I learned working in corporate America were tools that I was able to kind of bring to my repertoire when I jumped out and did enterprise or excuse me did entrepreneurship on my own. So it was a tough conversation. It changed me and my dad's relationship. Um, I don't think he resented me for it, but it was definitely something that had to be done. And I think that every son and father relationship that exists, they cross that path at some point, and
Mm-hmm.
ours for sure.
Yeah, like you said, it's bound to happen. Like it should happen, having those like conversations, and there should be this transition.
Mhm.
It's just not going to be easy for us. I can only imagine like going to my dad and he's got this plan, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going with that plan.
It
You know.
it was one of those things where it was like, Dad, I hear your plan, but I think your plan is broken.
Hmm.
So it's like, what do you mean my plan is broken? What do
Yeah.
what do you know?
Hmm.
And I didn't understand that pushback then as much as I understand it now.
For sure.
However, I still don't think I was wrong, right?
Hmm.
That I was wrong in trying to change the way he was looking at his business. But the fact that he didn't want to, I think that gave me enough understanding that I had to change what I was doing regardless. That was
Hmm.
the hard part, is like making the decision to, that's going to hurt someone that you love. Um, but it's the best decision for yourself.
Yeah.
It kind of made me feel selfish, but
You
um,
got to be selfish sometimes. Every founder is a little selfish, man.
yeah, man, yeah.
You gotta just be honest. So I want to transition a little bit, right?
Mm.
So you had you knew you wanted to take this gamble on yourself, is what I like to call it, for folks. So I'm curious, what was that first, like your business is around culture now, right? Like what was like that first, how did this idea come together? Like what was that first moment like for Nichefire? Because this is a
So,
broad topic. To most people don't say, "Hey, I want to have a culture tool, a culture
so
solution."
we launched Nichefire back in 2017, and originally it was a competitive analysis tool. And
Mm,
what we did was, let me back things up, right? Let me tell you how I met my founders, right? Because this doesn't happen, and this kind of plays into the why. Why would you keep doing something if you don't, just bear with me. So I'm selling copiers, right? First year B2B rep, sales manager comes to the bullpen and he says, "Hey, I bought tickets to this networking event. Does anyone want to go?"
mhm.
I'm like 2, 3 weeks in, and I
Free
got
food and drink, right? I'm assuming.
free food and drink.
Oh.
Uh, you know, sales manager, he's new. No one's giving him the energy that he wants. I see it as an opportunity to, because he was cool. I liked him. He was a super cool manager. So I'm like, Matt, I'll go. Right now, everyone is just crickets. Right, no one wants to go. Like, no one even looks up from their computer. So I'm like, hey, let me go to this networking event. So we get there. It's a speed networking event. Right, already red flag number one. Already weird. Right, all right.
Hmm.
Let's go through the tables. Now I'm peeping the scene, and it's a lot of, like, older women, older people, and they were real familiar with how they were pitching. Like, hey, let me watch. You want to come watch my video? It was a bunch of network marketing people. So
Hmm.
now the light bulb goes off. This is why no one wanted to come. Everyone knew this was a bunch of crap. So
Hmm.
I look at the room, and I wanted to sit next to the person that was like least likely to pitch me. There's a gentleman with the UC portfolio, right? So I'll sit next to him. You go to UC, or you went to UC? Yeah, I'm the one that. Me too. Uh, and this person is Michael, right? So uh, halfway through it, you get, all these network marketing teams getting up, selling stuff. So we said, hey, let's go get coffee, man. This is complete trash. Uh, it literally was supposed to happen, because at that time I'm learning how to do digital marketing. I can't execute on the design. Michael was designer and, partial coder, right? And we were like, hey, why don't we join together and like just start something? So a week after meeting at that event, him and I started an agency, and that was like
Mm.
real business that I started. So fast forward to um, kind of get to Nichefire. We started at 2017. This is after we shut down the agency and everything. we wanted to build a tool that leveraged social media, AI to provide a cultural, or excuse me, a competitive analysis tool. And doing this work, and we kind of built this tool out. It got really, really good reviews and stuff like that from our peers and UX testing and stuff like that. And we were able to get one customer, one big customer from it, and we just kind of landed, expanded with that customer to survive for a long time. But the pain wasn't painful enough in the market for that tool. And it wasn't
Mm,
until the one of the departments we were selling into came to us, and they told us that, they thought our tool was really, really awesome. And this is like market research people too. So we're excited that market research thinks our tool is good. And said, but our problem isn't really the competitive analysis thing. It's us understanding those unknown unknowns, right? We have these social listening tools. We have these, workflows to kind of get this information from consumers, but we don't have a way to understand what to search for when we don't know that it's happening. So if you guys could build a tool that did that, that would be golden for us. So kind of went back to the drawing board, and luckily Michael was able to kind of think about ways and confirm ways that we pulled in the data, and if through data scientists, if we could make these assumptions around unknown unknowns and culture, and that literally was the birth of our first pivot into this cultural listening tool. We spun up an MVP, validated with some individuals, and it got the attention that we always wanted. That's when we knew to kind of take this and move forward. Now, on the personal side, what resonated for me was that I grew up in a very culturally diverse world, right? My parents were Muslim. We're only Muslims in our entire family. The rest of my family is Christian, right?
mm,
So I always had that dynamic there. My neighborhood I grew up in the school that I went to, had a lot of Jewish kids. So I grew up with a lot of Jewish kids, and learning about Hanukkah and some of their traditions. And then I've always been like this nerdy athlete type as well. So I've always kind of had to be a chameleon in how I dealt with individuals. So the fact that we landed into this cultural technology, it was like fate, right? So
mm.
I hope that answers the question. I get
Nah, it definitely does, man. Like you really went through the whole like genesis,
yeah.
right? Like that thought, like sometimes that can be like a trick question for somebody to ask you, like you said, like what was the first idea that you all pulled together for the company?
Hmm.
Like, and you gave me the full story, so I appreciate that. Like, I saw the movie play out, like as you were talking about it, and I think that's really powerful because, like, as I mentioned at the top of the call, right, every founder story, right? It's a journey. Like it's a movie that you can share as much as you want, and then it's up to us as the listeners. I'm a listener in that case, as you were telling that story, so I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your background. You threw in a word there as you were explaining it, though. You mentioned it first. I didn't, folks. We talk about it a lot. The word is called AI, or the term is called AI now, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how do you keep how do you keep the work you're doing grounded in like the human element, right? When you're building something that has a focus on AI and there's like this, how do I get to the perfect answer
Mhm.
in the on the back of people's minds? I'm curious, like what's your thoughts around that?
So when we, the fact that, almost 10 years ago we were entertaining AI, that word was key for me in reinventing, or just kind of burning my ships and saying, hey, I'm gonna do this tech thing now, right? Because what I saw with AI 10 years ago wasn't the threatening side that a lot of people think about when it comes to AI. I was thinking about more of the practical applications of the AI and how it helps people do things better, right? I've always felt like the AI should empower teams to help them get to more meaningful work faster. And that's really what the Nichefire tool even when it was a competitive analysis tool, that's what it did at its core, is that it made smart people smarter because
Mm,
it cut down on the research side that one would have to do when you're doing some type of competitive analysis, right? So instead of, one to two, maybe even three people within a team or a cohort working on a project around understanding, a particular element, you throw this AI tool in. Now you just added what seems to be a data scientist, a couple data scientists, a couple analysts, right? It seemed to kind of supercharge those groups so that they spend less time digging and trying to figure out what's happening and more time on reacting from the information. So now, fast forward through that to this now cultural listening technology. We're providing businesses the ability to cut through 80 to 100 hours per project, right? Monthly,
mm,
that these teams will be stuck doing. So what that means is that Mr. Customer here at this CPG spends almost the entire month trying to understand one element of culture. Now they can understand many elements of culture at one time and spend more time doing ideation, planning, having those strategic conversations with the brand, market research, fine tuning all those areas beforehand with the tool. So again, like, I think when we first started, a lot of people were scared to talk about AI because the fear of it taking over, taking someone's job. And now we're in this era of, uh, AI as my partner, AI as my friend, which really helps out Nichefire because now when we're selling in, it's not a lot of pushback of, oh, I'm gonna lose my job or this is gonna be.
hmm.
People see this as a tool to kind of help them advance their career.
I love that. Yeah, I think it's the tools here to stay, like you said. So it's like why not get the most of it, make yourself that much more efficient.
Mhm.
I think that's a powerful way to go about it. Whether somebody's a small business owner, they got a business on Main Street, or they're building a tech company like what you all are building with Nichefire. Like there's a need for AI now to scale up. You threw something in there around CPG, consumer good companies, right? I'm curious, like with you and your team being based in Cincinnati, how has that shaped how you're growing the business? Because I know there is like a big CPG focus in Cincinnati and the surrounding areas. So I'm curious, like, how has being in that city in that area led to some opportunities, or maybe forced you to look in other places?
Yeah, man. I throw in retail as well because for those who don't know, Cincinnati, uh, Kroger is headquartered here.
Hmm.
Gamble headquartered here. So with these large retail giants or even CPG giants, I mean Procter and Gamble, the biggest CPG company in the world, if I'm not mistaken. What you have also behind that is some of the top, data. Uh, I don't want to call them like data warehouses, but like um, the top people like using data or leveraging data, right? So, for example, we got like 8451, which is essentially uh, Kroger's. They house all of Kroger's data and many, many, many other like retail data points. But you have some of the top minds in the space of working with data and data science and analytics and stuff like that come with that as well. So being here and being connected to the startup scene like that, it was almost um, it was hard in the beginning because being that those young guys that are trying to do this in this space with these giants that have been doing it, you don't really get heard immediately.
Mm,
So what we had to do is really figure out um, where do we provide that most impact, right? And it was typically within the social intelligence teams, right? So we found a group that literally housed the top social intelligence practitioners from all over the world. And this was a growing group as well. We literally spent like our last dollars to be a part of this cohort where we went and learned how to talk about what we do and how to uh, how to build up the value of social intelligence and stuff like that. So that helped us, kind of it helped us get out in front of a space that wasn't very popular yet. And unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
we had to leave Cincinnati to do that. But what happened after that is the reverse, right? Now we're able to kind of get those meetings here locally. We're able to talk to those top data scientists at, XYZ company, or that used to work for Procter and Gamble, or used to do this for Macy's. Macy's used to be headquartered here too.
Mm.
So we're able to kind of touch those areas. And I think being in Cincinnati, and all of us being from Cincinnati, um, or at least from the University of Cincinnati, it all kind of plays into that DNA of our image too. It's like, kind of being scrappy junkyard dog types that just don't take no for an answer. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's like one of the things that the biggest ways that kind of shaped us. It gave us that resilience to say, okay, we're in this place where we got some of the top minds in the world doing this type of work. No one's listening to us. Let's try these people over here. Oh, you want us to come to London? Okay, we'll come to London and launch our product in London. And
Mm-hmm.
from that, that's when it was like, what are you guys doing in London?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, it's definitely a tale of just resilience, man. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people would have quit before we did. And that I will say that is part of like kind of being here in the city is definitely got to show and prove, because there's a lot of, talented people working for the corporations here locally.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, like you said, there's some really big entities in a city like Cincinnati, and then you got to figure out how to get on their radar. And then once you have those relationships, it's really cool to see how you can leverage that further to go after some really cool opportunities. Last question that I want to wrap up with you, and it's as you're looking at this, like this whole kind of, I look at Nichefire. You guys are like indexing culture in a lot of ways, right? With all the just all the different feeds that you all have is really cool. You showed me the platform before. What's some of the like, or what's like the biggest aha moment you've seen while exploring the data in Nichefire? Because I know you look at a lot of trends across different, really across different countries, across different groups. So I'm curious, like, what's the biggest aha, or maybe it's a recent aha for you
Yeah.
moment that you saw?
Let's kind of take a step back to it and talk about uh, it's this make believe element that shows up as a founder sometimes, because we operate in a very uh, you have to be very optimistic, right? You don't get a lot of people believing in you. You're kind of walking this path lonely in a lot of cases. So one of the biggest aha moments that I had is that our tool is actually working. And
Mm.
this is what I mean, right? When you're ingesting millions of data points from, you know, many, many different channels, and you're using AI to make sense of it, in those early days of that, you get a lot of noise, right? You get a lot of noise, you get a lot of doubts in what you're seeing within the technology. So operating in that space of, hey, in our beta, it's really noisy. People can't make sense of the data. Is this really telling me the truth? Was kind of where I had to operate as the main salesperson too, where I developed a little bit of, I developed a little bit of, a little bit of an identity crisis, right? If you will, right? I had imposter syndrome, and the fears that I had was that the data wasn't telling me the truth. And that wasn't the case. The data was just noisy. So as we continue to iterate and develop and get our models more accurate, I was able to pull in more accurate data. And one area that I saw, I was doing a project for a prospect where I was looking at the impacts of inflation on consumers. And I kept seeing this trend pop up. Like, I mean, you've seen the normal trends popping up of egg prices skyrocketing, inflation, uh, consumers, there was this upcycled food movement, right? Where people were like willingly buying ugly fruits and I don't know how many brands kind of sparked off. You can buy like the cut up pieces of lunch meat or bacon, right? Instead of buying the full pie, right? Yeah, all these things kind of happening because of inflation. And you had normal things happening too, like people switching from name brands to private labels or store brands and stuff like that. But then I kept seeing this YouTuber brand trend pop up in the data. And it happened across 3 different dashboards that I built doing this monitoring. So I immediately, said it was noise, right? Until I kind of got with one of my advisors. He said, no, it's a lot more here than I think we're giving credit to. Let's dive into this a little bit more. And what we found was that consumers, despite the financial situations for a lot of people, if there was a YouTuber or streamer led brand that came on the scene like Prime or Feastables or Lunchlies, right? Like these things will pop up and then the fans will go crazy for these and say, like, I'm gonna buy this at premium price because it's coming from a source that I love and I'm a fan of, right? Didn't really count on seeing things like that happening. And I communicated this to some of our customers and things like that. And lo and behold, maybe a month or two after I seen that trend, it was a huge barrage of just, I mean, I think Logan Paul, KSI, somebody else launched the Lunchable. There's a bunch of other things happening. I think it was called Uraway. There was a market. There's a market in LA where they sell strawberry, like one strawberry for like $25.
That's crazy.
And they had like all these celebrity smoothies for like $45, celebrity tequilas and coffees and like all this stuff happening, or influencer coffees and stuff like that happening. It was just kind of like this barrage of things. And it was like, oh, wow, that's my aha moment. Like, okay, we're on the money with this. This is how I can live within the platform and start talking about these trends a little bit more louder because it's working. That was like my moment. Now we've had some moments in the market as well, which we could save those stories for another time, but
yeah, for sure.
We've helped inspire products. We help inspire products that are on the shelves now, products that are being made, marketing campaigns, all types of stuff with our products. But literally seeing that one signal and being able to communicate it. We did a webinar about it and everything was like my big moment where I was like, oh, all right, now I don't have to be fearful of showing this off. Now I don't have to be fearful of misrepresenting or the AI is hallucinating or anything like that. Like I didn't have to deal with that. I could talk straight facts.
Appreciate that. And so in closing, I just want to say, Khalil, thank you for being on the platform. You shared a lot about your journey, what you're building with Nichefire. Can you real quickly tell folks how to stay tapped in with the brand, with you? What's the best route to see all things that are going on in your world?
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate you having me, man. It's always a pleasure. It's very easy. Reach out to us via LinkedIn. If you could provide our LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn as well as Michael and Stevens. We got 3 founders here, so it's really easy to kind of get in contact with one of us. And then you always can check out our blog. We got a newsletter dropping next week. www.nichefire.com is the website, and LinkedIn will be the best way to kind of contact us personally.
Appreciate you for that, Khalil. For those listening in, thank you for tuning in to another great episode of the Beyond Normal podcast. Appreciate it.
Peace.